it includes, whenever we talk on inclusive pedagogy, it includes, inclusive pedagogy includes different modes of communication. Communication is a very important process of teaching and learning. In teaching learning process, communication occupies most important position in the classroom. There are different modes of communication. You must be thorough about these modes of communication. Lecture method or oral method is one mode of communication. But there are so many modes of communication. Let me discuss about different modes of communication. First comes verbal mode of communication. Verbal mode: speaking, listening, reading, writing. Verbal mode of communication. Oral, we may say oral mode of communication. You may say oral approach. It was dominating in the classroom. And 90% teachers use this mode of communication in the classroom. But there are other modes of communication. That can be visual mode of communication. Visual mode of communication. Mode of communication which can be visible to each and every student, visible to the students, which includes use of pictures, maps, charts, graphs, flashcards, picture. Teaching learning materials, we use pictures. Teaching learning aids, maps we use, then chart we use. That is visual mode of communication, which is visible. Through this mode, it can be flashcard also, video. We can use visual modes, technology, video technology, or video tools, which will be visible to students. Then another mode is auditory mode. Auditory mode, audio modes, audio aids. Audio aids, we may say music, lecture method, which can be oral approach, also comes under auditory mode of communication. Then physical mode of communication, physical activities. Kinesthetic mode, physical mode of communication, physical activities, hands-on activity, demonstration, posture, gesture. These are the activities which can be used in teaching learning process. So, inclusive pedagogy includes verbal mode, auditory mode, physical mode. Not only these modes, there are also other modes. This can be affective mode of communication. Affective mode of communication, remember. Because motivation, I have already emphasized that factor, will to achieve motivation. Motivational factor or motivation is also or plays important role for success of the student, which can accelerate one's performance and achievement in the classroom. Motivation. Very important. So, interest. Interest of the student should be aroused To motivate the student means to create interest among the students in teaching learning process. Student must be motivated. That means it must, we have to create opportunity in the classroom so that students should develop their interest towards teaching and learning. Not only their interest will be aroused, their interest must be sustained. That means their interest should continue throughout teaching learning process. Mere arousal of interest is not important. Mere arousal of interest is not important. For sometimes they were interested for teaching learning process, 5 minutes, but other for all other minutes they are not interested. They do not develop their taste towards teaching and learning. That's why interest must be aroused, interest must be sustained, and interest must continue throughout teaching and learning process, which must be directed towards to achieve goals or directed towards goals. So teacher must be thorough on providing opportunities to create interest among the students. That is what we say affective mode of teaching. We may use praise, we may use rewards, we may encourage the students, we may smile, we may nod our head after getting suitable answer from the students. That's why interest, to create interest, we have to use different skills. We have to create different opportunities that comes under psychology, that comes under affective, or we may say psychological mode of communication. That is very important. Use of reinforcement, positive reinforcement in the classroom. And inclusive pedagogy also includes social mode of communication. Social mode of communication, nowadays we give stress on collaborative learning, cooperative learning. We divide the students in a class into small groups consisting of 5 to 6 students, and each groups are engaged with some mental activities so that they can get opportunity to discuss with some problem. Then they suggest their interpretations to a particular concept. They discuss, they debate, then they argue with other groups. Then there must be encouraged counter arguments. They fight with ideas, wrestling with ideas, fight with ideas for generation of new ideas. That's why social mode of communication should be given nowadays, is given more important in the classroom, which includes cooperative learning, group work strategy, collaborative learning. Then let me discuss, so far as inclusive pedagogy is concerned, let me discuss about different learning preferences of disabled learners. Because the disabled learners are allowed to take admission in inclusive classroom. Disabled learners, hearing impaired students, visually impaired students. What are the learning preferences of visually impaired students? Those who are blind. What are their learning preferences? They prefer, they don't prefer visual mode of communication because they have lost their vision. If a teacher use always visual mode of communication in the classroom, visually impaired students will not be benefited out of that mode of communication because they have lost their vision. We should be given priority. Which mode of communication do they prefer? Visually impaired students. They prefer auditory mode of communication. Remember, auditory mode of communication, oral approach. Speaking, then that is reading aloud, speaking before them, let them listen, reading aloud. They will not be benefited out of reading mode of communication, writing on the blackboard. They will not be benefited out of using pictures, charts, maps, visual aids. They will not be benefited. That's why for visually impaired students, priority should be given uh, to use of auditory mode of communication. Besides that, that is kinesthetic mode of communication you can use, a teacher can use kinesthetic mode, physical mode of communication. Physical mode of communication, that is models, use of models, activities, embossed map, relief map for them, field trip, use of braille for visually impaired students, then activities, hand-on activities, let them do some work, learning by doing activities, learning by doing method you can use for them. That should be taken into account while teaching students in a inclusive classroom where blind students are there. Then affective mode, as I have already discussed, reinforcement, verbal reinforcement, because praise, very good, good, excellent, carry on, reinforcement, positive, verbal mode of reinforcement you can use to create interest among the students in an inclusive classroom. Then social mode of communication you can use. They can also be a part and parcel with normal students in a small group, in cooperative learning situation, or in group work strategies. Okay, then social mode of communication, that can be forming small groups, while they should be the member in a group with normal students. They can think together, peer tutorials, group work strategies you can use, or they want this type of communication from a teacher in the classroom. What about hearing impaired students? Hearing impaired students prefer visual mode of communication, chart, map, visual clips, visual aids, pictures, visual mode of communication. And they want to read some materials with illustration. They want using sign language, lip reading, something, watching activities, demonstration, some activities which we have to create as a teacher in the classroom, some activities so that they can watch your activities to learn. That's why they want this, that is visual mode of communication they prefer. So inclusive pedagogy includes visual mode of communication for the benefit of hearing impaired students. Then tactile or kinesthetic mode of communication. Kinesthetic mode of communication, demonstration, taking the students in field trip, class project work, some activities, activity-based method. Okay, then we may say learning by doing method, activity-based method, hands-on activities. They will be benefited out of that activities, physical activities. And but remember, too much importance to physical mode of communication makes a child slave. Physical mode of communication, Montessori method nowadays is rejected. Previously, Montessori method, physical activities were given priority in teaching learning process. Montessori method, physical activities. But that physical activities at present has been rejected by constructivists. They give stress on mental activities, not physical activities. They give stress on mental activities. Mind should be made active. Mind of the student should be made active. So, too much emphasis on physical activities in teaching learning process makes a child slave. That's why, as a teacher, you should make a balance between physical activities and mental activities. Underline this statement. There must be a balance between physical activities and mental activities. In some schools, I have seen that teachers give praise on physical activities only. Construction of materials. Some workshop is in B.Ed colleges. I see some workshop is created to construct teaching learning materials. Workshop on construction of teaching learning materials. Montessori method. Too much emphasis on physical activities. Construction of objects is given priority. But nowadays, construction of knowledge is given priority. Just to distinguish between these two concepts. Constructivism does not mean construction of objects. Constructivism, constructivism, two concepts. Constructionism gives importance to construction of objects. Constructivism gives stress on construction of idea. Just make a difference between construction of ideas or construction of knowledge and construction of objects. We should be given priority. Construction nowadays, construction of knowledge or construction of ideas should be given priority. That's why, as a teacher, there must be a balance you have to create or you have to make between physical activities and mental activities. And mental activities should be given priority than physical activities. Anyway, through mental activities, through physical activities, let us develop mental activities. Maximum development of mental activities or maximization of mind or abilities, maximization of abilities, potential abilities. You may take the help of physical activities, but too much importance to physical activities should be abandoned. We should not give stress on too much importance to physical activities. Through physical activities, mental activities should be given priority. Anyway, then affective mode of communication, as I have already discussed, to arouse interest, to continue interest among the students during teaching learning process, for hearing impaired students, How to provide reinforcement? Smiling. If you say very good, good, excellent, that is verbal mode of reinforcement. They will not be benefited out of verbal mode of reinforcement. Hearing impaired students will be benefited out of normal, non-verbal ways of reinforcement. Non-verbal ways of reinforcement includes smiling, nodding your head, patting their back, patting on the back. If don't use verbal way of reinforcement. You should use non-verbal way of reinforcement for hearing impaired students. Then social mode. They also prefer social mode, that is also which includes cooperative learning, group work strategies, then group work, then program according to their interest, cooperative learning strategy you can use. Then comes learning disabled students. We find learning disabled students. Who are learning disabled students? There is a difference between slow learner and learning disabled students. Remember, learning disabled students have high IQ. So far as intellectual ability or competency is concerned, they are very high. So far as intellectual ability is concerned or IQ is concerned. But their achievement is very low. Previously, it was held that whose IQ is very good, their achievement will be very good. But there are students in the classroom whose IQ is very good, IQ is very high, IQ is very high, but their achievement is below average. There are different types of learning disabled students. Tomorrow I will discuss in detail. But remember, these learning disabled students are found in inclusive classroom. There are slow learners whose IQ is very low and achievement is very low. But so far as Navodaya Vidyalaya is concerned, slow learners percentage is very low. Means IQ less student is not found in the Navodaya Vidyalaya. In Navodaya Vidyalaya, all are having high IQ, but their performance is very low. They perform slowly or less performance. They are called learning disabled students. Why I am speaking in Navodaya Vidyalaya, slow learners or less IQ student are not found because they appear entrance examination and to take admission in Navodaya school, they secure very good marks. They qualify entrance exam and then only they can take admission. They are allowed to take admission. That's why their IQ is very high. But during teaching learning process, what happens? They don't secure uh, very good marks in different subjects. That's why they are called learning disabled. Due to their minimal brain dysfunction, they have become learning disabled. But they prefer all modes of communication. Learning disabled students, they prefer all modes of communication or all modes of communication, which I have already discussed. That is visual mode of communication, then kinetic physical mode of communication, physical activity based mode of communication, then auditory mode of communication, affective mode of communication, social mode of communication. Through all those modes of communication, they will be benefited. That's why to teach students in the classroom or transact curriculum in the classroom, you must know these different modes of communications. Besides all those modes of communication, nowadays, technological mode of communication is given priority. Technological, IC technology, information and communication technology, uh, mode of communication, different tools, different uh, uh, ICT mode of communication should be used to deal with students in the classroom. That's why these are different modes of communications which can be used by a teacher in teaching learning process to ensure maximum or utmost development of hidden potentialities of the students, to ensure fullest development of individual potentialities. We have to use different modes of communication and different methods of teaching, different strategies of teaching, techniques of teaching, skills of teaching to maximize the hidden potentialities of the students. Question arises, question arises whether knowledge pre-exists or knowledge is acquired. Some say knowledge pre-exists. Some say knowledge is acquired. In this particular debatable question, many thinkers like Vivekananda, he says education is a manifestation of divine perfection already existing in man. That means everything exists in mind at the time of birth. At the time of birth, there exists everything. Knowledge pre-exists. Maybe in hidden form. Knowledge exists maybe in hidden form. Hidden. We may say supta basta. Hidden. We say hidden potentialities. Maybe in the form of hidden potentialities, everything exists, according to Vivekananda. Pastology also says education means natural, progressive, and harmonious development of man's innate power. Innate means power or knowledge is innate. Knowledge pre-exists. Knowledge pre-exists in mind at the time of birth. Teacher has to facilitate. Teacher has to provide opportunities, or in the school or in the classroom, teacher has to provide opportunities to ensure maximum development of hidden potentialities, maximum growth and development of hidden potentialities in order to ensure fullest development or perfect development. We say perfect development. Gandhi also says all around drawing out of the best what already in This also another view of Aurobindo comes to my mind. Another view of Aurobindo comes into mind. Teacher is not a tax master. Nothing can be taught to the student. Nothing can be taught. And teacher is not a tax master. Everything is there in the mind of the student. Nothing can be taught to the students. Let us create opportunities or facilitate for the fullest development of innate potentialities of the student which already exist within the child in hidden form at the time of birth. So, hidden potentialities of the child should be developed. Anyway, let me discuss about universal design for learning. That should be the universal design. What is universal design for learning? When I talk on that particular statement or present that particular statement before you, then something comes into your mind that there is only one single, perhaps there is one single design which is called universal design, which will be suitable for all students in the classroom. No, it is not one single design for learning. Universal design learning is based upon the strength of each and every student in the classroom. And it is suitable for the need and expectation of each and every learner in the classroom, irrespective of abilities, irrespective of disabilities, irrespective of socio-cultural background. It must be suitable for the expectation and the need of each and every student in the classroom. That is what universal design for learning is. It creates learning experiences, means it creates learning experience which will be suitable for all learners to maximize their ability to progress. And it is based upon the principle of flexibility and inclusiveness. Flexibility, it includes different methods of teaching. Universal design model for learning includes different methods of teaching, not one method of teaching. It includes different skills of teaching, includes different strategies of teaching. It includes different teaching learning materials, different modes of teaching, different techniques and skills of teaching. And very important thing is that it uses all five sense organs of the students, means it must give priority. Universal design for learning should give stress on different sense organs: listening, then looking or vision, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Those five sense organs should be used. Five sense organs of the students should be used in the classroom. That's why we have to create opportunities so that student can be able to use five sense organs in teaching learning processes. Not only their ear they can use, not only their eyes they can use, they should use their nose, smell, and skin. Five sense organs should be given priority. But at present, only two sense organs are given priority. That is ear and eye. Eye of the student and ear of the students are given priority. But nose is not given priority, tongue is not given priority, and skin is not given priority. Sense organs are the instrument of development of knowledge. May it be acquired, knowledge may be acquired, or knowledge may be innate, but fullest development of hidden potentialities can be made possible through the use of five sense organs. That's why universal design model for learning should give trace on the use of five sense organs of the students in the classroom. We must give priority. And universal design for learning also is based upon the principle of appropriately designed space in the classroom, appropriately designed space for all students in the classroom. What does it mean? That means all have clear line of sight in the classroom. All students should be provided opportunity to, to have clear sight in the classroom. Clear sight means you are using blackboard in the classroom. All students should be given opportunity to see clearly what you are writing on the blackboard. In inclusive classroom, as a teacher, you should make sitting arrangement of the students properly. Who should sit in the first line in the classroom? Second line, third line, who should sit in the third line, fourth line, fifth line, sixth line, or back line? Some students in my time were speaking that we are backbenchers. Backbenchers means teachers are not allowed to sit in the front rows in the classroom. We are directed to sit in the back benches, backbenchers. Then your duty is to arrange sitting arrangement of the students appropriately in the classroom. So inclusive pedagogy, or you may say universal design for learning requires classroom management, sitting arrangement of the classroom management, or management of the space in the classroom by the teacher. Blind students or hearing impaired students are there. In which row they should be allowed to sit? Hearing impaired students, there are 3 or 4 hearing impaired students. There are 2 or 3 blind students. Visually impaired students or learning disabled students, average standard students, brilliant students, tall students are there. Tall students are there. Girls are there. So that you should make arrangement of space in such a way that sitting arrangement of the students in the classroom is such a way that each and every student must have clear line of sight. That is your lookout. Then learning materials. You should Space management. Learning materials should be uh, so spaced in the classroom that it should be available, easily available, or within the comfortable reach of each and every student. Learning materials should be kept in such a place that each and every student should have an access with comfort. That is your lookout. Then adequate space for assistive device that a teacher uses in the classroom. Assistive device, arrangement of computer, where computer should be kept. All those things. That is your lookout. Duster, your whiteboard, where it should be kept, so that you can look at it clearly. Then universal design or inclusive pedagogy or universal design model must be based upon the principle of simplicity. We have under maxims of teaching learning process, maxims of teaching, we have studied the principle of simple to complex. Universal design for learning must be based upon the principle of simple to complex, near to far, concrete to abstract, simple, simplicity. Avoid complexity of content. Teaching learning process should be made as simple as possible. There must not be any complexities. And we must avoid unnecessary complexities. Remember, avoid unnecessary complexities. Don't make teaching learning process complex. As simple as possible. Again, I am reiterating again and again, I am speaking. For example, while introducing Wordsworth, we may start with this way of communication, that is, Wordsworth was a poet. Wordsworth was a romantic poet. You see, Wordsworth was a poet. It is very simple. Wordsworth was a poet. Wordsworth was a romantic poet. Wordsworth was a romantic poet par excellence. Just to differentiate simple to complex from this example. Wordsworth was a poet, very simple. Wordsworth was a romantic poet. Romantic poet. The next one is Wordsworth was a romantic poet par excellence. Just to distinguish among three sentences, statements that I used. If in the beginning I would have used Wordsworth was a romantic poet par excellence, then everything is lost. Student cannot understand. I am sure student cannot understand. If I start with high-sounding words, high-sounding sentences, table is so heavy that I cannot lift it. Nobody can understand. Table is very heavy. I cannot lift it. Table is very heavy. I cannot lift it. Then you can use table is so heavy that I cannot lift it. If I start my lesson with it, table is so heavy that I cannot lift it, student may not understand. That is why our teaching learning process must be based upon the principle of simple to complex. Unnecessary complexity should be avoided. So universal design for learning also should be based upon collaborative situation with student. That means a cooperative learning situation. And it must be based upon the principle of arranging information sequentially. Sequentially. What should be, what information should be given first, then next, which information should be given next, which information should be given next, next, likewise. Sequentially. Simple to complex, it must be arranged sequentially. Content to be transacted must be arranged sequentially, systematically, sequentially, systematically. Systematic process. As I have already told, teaching is a science. Teaching involves systematic process, step by step by sequential process, systematic process. How to prepare a tea? A cup of tea. I want a cup of tea. How to prepare? There are different steps, but we have to follow these different steps of preparing tea sequentially. Otherwise, you cannot prepare tea perfectly. What activity should be done first while preparing a cup of tea? What activity? First activity, second activity, next activity, next activity, next activity. Preparing biryani. First activity, second activity, third activity, sequentially. Preparing chili chicken, then activities. It involves some systematic activities, and those those activities must be performed sequentially to prepare mutton curry or chicken biryani or whatever it may be, whatever it may be. Similarly, teaching activities must be arranged sequentially or performed sequentially by a teacher in the classroom. What should be the first step? What should be the second step, third step, fourth step, likewise, sequentially arranged. Must be based upon the principle of simple to complex, concrete to abstract, likewise. Then, breaking down the instructions into small steps. Instruction must be broken down into small steps. And those small steps should be followed sequentially. Providing feedback. As a teacher, you have to provide feedback during learning. Feedback. Let the student understand their strengths and weaknesses. Let them know what is their strength and let them know what is their weaknesses. During teaching learning process, you have to create opportunities so that student can understand their weaknesses as well as their strength. That is what we say feedback. Feedback to the student. Then, universal design for learning also based upon the principle of safetyness. Safety, physical safetyness and psychological safetyness or emotional safetyness. Physical safetyness, nowadays we don't punish the student. Physical punishment is banned all over uh, India, in all schools, all over the globe. There should not be any physical punishment. That is also practiced in each and every school, but in some schools, physical punishment is given. Then also psychological punishment. You should avoid psychological punishment, so that psychological punishment means blaming the students, criticizing the student in the classroom, using abusive language for the student in the classroom, aggressive on the student, angry upon the students, in the classroom, harsh language, using harsh language for the student in the classroom. Be polite. You should be, you should use polite language. Praise the students. Don't make the students psychologically down. Encourage the students. Create interest of the students. Motivate the students. Reward the students. Praise the students. So that they should feel mm, psychologically good in the classroom or during teaching learning process. Psychological safetyness. Then respectful. We must love to the students. We must respect to the students. Students, students are everything. Students are living God. They possess everything. They know everything. They can create knowledge. They are the future citizen of our country. They should be respected. Their knowledge should be respected. Their views should be respected. That's why universal design for learning uses technique of respecting student and encouragement. Not only respect, but also encourage students in every step of teaching learning process. And use interactive method of teaching, experiential method of teaching, interactive method, interaction, so that should be opportunity on the part of the student to interact with the teachers. Clear? Interactive mode. Not teaching learning process is not a one-way traffic. It is something two-way traffic. And respect. Let them say, you know everything. I don't know anything. This is the principle which Socrates followed. Socratic method follows this principle. What is Socratic method? Socrates believes that, or it is assumed that, or Socrates was telling to the students that you know everything, I do not know anything. No, sir, student, come to me. You know everything. If student says, no, sir, I have one doubt, then ask your doubt, ask question. When student was putting question, Socrates was not giving answer to the question. Instead, Socrates was putting simple questions, simple questions, and collecting ideas, simple ideas from the students in such a way that at last, the question which was put to the Socrates by the student, the same question at last Socrates was putting to that student. And to his surprise, he could give correct answer to the question which he had put to Socrates. This is what Socratic method of teaching is. Remember, Socrates was not, again I am telling you, student was asking question to the Socrates. Socrates was not giving direct answer to the student. Rather, he was putting questions, small questions in such a way that when the student could give answer, and at last, means he had sequentially, he put questions to the student sequentially, small question to the student sequentially in such a way that at last the question which the student had put originally to Socrates was put by Socrates to the student at last, and at last the student could give answer. Then Socrates was laughing. You see, you gave answer to your own question. I did not give answer to your question, but you gave answer to your question. You know everything. I do not know anything. How could you give answer to the question which you had put to me? I did not give answer to the question. At last you gave answer to the question which you had put to me, because everything is with you. Only requires opportunities. Uh, Only it requires creation opportunities so that your hidden potentialities could be developed. That's why teacher is a facilitator. Socrates facilitated learning. Socrates was not directly teaching. Socrates facilitated. That's why you should play the role of a Socrates, and you should facilitate learning. Student knows everything. Knowledge potentially present in the child or in students at the time of birth. Only your work is to facilitate it. Only your work is to create opportunities so that hidden potentialities could be developed to its maximum form. Maximization or perfection of hidden potentialities by creating opportunities in the class is your only task as a teacher in the modern society, in the postmodern society. Now we are living in the society which is based upon the idea of postmodernism. Then universal design model also follows some common principles. Universal design for learning also, or inclusive pedagogy, or follow some common principles. What are those principles? I have already discussed, and let us summarize those principles. Then multiple means of representation. Multiple means of representations. It includes oral mode, visual mode, auditory mode, social mode, affective mode, multiple modes of representation. It also follows the principle of multiple means of action, reaction, and reflection. Multiple means for action, reaction, and reflection. Ultimate goal of teaching and learning means creation of knowledge. How knowledge will be created? Unless and until a child will be reflected with the existing ideas, existing experiences. Reflect new things, innovate new things, reflect with experiences, reflect with opportunities provided by the teacher in the classroom. New ideas will be generated. Reflection, action. It must be based upon the principle of action, reaction, and at the end, student must be reflected with those actions and reactions. Then only we can ensure the success of teaching learning process, or success of the inclusive pedagogy, or success of the universal design for learning in the classroom. Unless and until the students reflect with new ideas, then teaching learning process has no meaning. Teaching learning process is meaningless. That's why think over it. Create opportunities so that student will act, react, and at last reflect with new ideas. Then it includes multiple means for engagement. Multiple means for engagement. What are those? Experimentation, engagement, provide opportunities with experimentation, observation, then experiences, then debates, discussions, arguments, counter arguments. You should provide opportunity for debate, discussion, critical analysis of ideas, then wrestling with the ideas, fighting with the ideas, arguments with the ideas, counter arguments with the ideas, encourage arguments, counter arguments, discussion, debate, then observation, experimentation, observe the situation, observe the context, experiment with the context, act with the situation, react with the situation, then debate with existing ideas, debate, criticize, argument, counter arguments, discussion. That's why this universal design for learning includes multiple means for engagement. Then differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction. Whenever we talk on differentiated instruction, it includes differentiated content, differentiated process, and differentiate product. Differentiate content, differentiate content. We have to analyze the content which should be transacted in the classroom. As a teacher, the content to be transacted in the classroom should be analyzed. What are the simple concepts? What are the complex concepts? Which concept should be given in the beginning, or with which concept teaching learning process should start? How those ideas should be sequentially arranged? How those ideas should be perfectly transacted? Which method should be used? Which technique should be used for teaching learning process to teach that idea? Which method should be used? Which technique should be used? Strategy should be used? Which teaching learning aids or materials should be used? What should be used? Whether it should be based upon activity-based method or just auditory mode of communication or oral mode of communication, which mode of communication should be used for teaching that ideas? You have to analyze in detail the content. What are the simple ideas? What are the complex ideas? How this complex idea will be transacted in the classroom? Which method should be used? Which technique should be used? You should analyze the content or the topic to be discussed before going to teach or transact as a teacher. Differentiate. How to reduce complexity? What are the motivational techniques to be used? How to encourage the students? How to create interest on the student? Which teaching aid should be used? Which situation should be created? In detail, you have to analyze the content. Some of you may say that is tax analysis. Okay, tax analysis, make a tax analysis. Content should be analyzed in detail. Clear? Then only it will be easy on your part to transact the topic in the classroom so that each and every student will be benefited. Then differentiate process. Process includes again method of teaching, strategies of teaching, approaches to teaching, then skills of teaching, techniques of teaching, reinforcement, use of different modes of communication, different teaching learning materials. Okay, different process. Which process? What should be the process? Whether 2 to 3 methods will be used or only one method will be used. Taking to the consideration of the interest of the students or type of students in your classroom, found in your classroom, students' interest, taking to the consideration, you have to choose, select methods of teaching. Whether 3 to demonstration method will be used, whether experimental method will be used, whether inductive method will be used, which method will be used for teaching this concept, which method will be used for teaching of that concept. So you have to select. Don't be rigid, be flexible. Use of different, which mode of communication should be used for teaching of this concept, that concept, which aid should be used. Okay, so process should be differentiate process while going to transact curriculum in the classroom. Process should be differentiated. Then product should be differentiated. Product. How to assess to the students? Product. Students' achievement. Last, end product. How you have to assess. Nowadays, pen and pencil test only is used to assess students, remember. No, there are multiple means of assessment. You must be thorough about multiple means of assessment techniques. Pen and pencil test can be used for normal students, but there are students whose achievement cannot be assessed by mere use of pen and pencil test. Verbal, oral test, interview, rating scale, observation, rubric, many strategies are there which you can use to assess the student. But at present, only we give stress on uh, uh, pen and pencil test. Various assessment tools are there, techniques are there. As a teacher, you must be thorough about those tools and techniques. That's why inclusive pedagogy or universal design for learning should make use of different assessment tools and techniques. And as a teacher, you must be thorough. You know, what are the common classroom strategy at present used all over the globe, all over the world? Let me discuss. You are aware of those strategy, and that strategy is best common classroom strategies nowadays used, you know, that is based upon the principle of constructivism. Okay, construction of new ideas. Previously, you were using different classroom strategies which were based upon the behavioristic approaches to learning. But nowadays, we use constructivist approaches to teaching and learning. In 20th century, Herbartian steps of learning was given priority while preparing lesson plan or while teaching to the students in the classroom. Nowadays, we use constructivist approaches to constructivist designs for construction of knowledge in the classroom all over the globe. And two such designs I would like to discuss. First one is the 5E model, constructivist model of teaching, 5E model of uh, teaching and learning by which new knowledge can be generated. You must be aware of this. And that 5E model of teaching strategy includes 5 steps. First step is engagement. Engage the students. 5E model, first step is engage. We have to engage the students in teaching learning experiences. Remember, it is based upon cooperative learning method. Before going to use 5E model, students of the classroom should be divided into small heterogeneous group consisting of 5 to 6 students. First, then students should be students in a group. Tasks should be given to the students by a teacher, and let student engage actively, or their mind should be engaged actively with those experiences, learning experiences. Provide some learning experiences and let them discuss among themselves, engage their mind actively. That is what engagement is. Then let them explore. After discussing within the group, let them explore some new things. So your work is to facilitate. Let them explore. 5 to 6 groups, let us say 30 students are there. You have divided the entire class into 6 groups, 30 students, 6 groups. Each group consists of 5 students with different abilities, disabilities, with different socio-cultural backgrounds. Let them engage, let them discuss among themselves and explore something. Then after that, you have to create a debate situation. Let them present their ideas, what they explore before others, one by one. And let us create opportunity for arguments, debates, discussions, counter arguments. Okay. After explanation, after explaining by the groups their ideas, they explore. Then they debate with those ideas. First group may argue, second group may argue, they may put questions, you have to explain. Likewise, a debate, a discussion. Then next step is elaboration. Then many ideas will come out. First group will come with one ideas, second group will come with another ideas, third group will come out with the next ideas, then 5 to 6 ideas will emerge. Then it will elaborate. Next step is elaboration, summarize. As a teacher, you have to summarize what are the ideas emerged out of debate, discussion. Then last one is evaluation. Last step is evaluation. That is the strategy, that are the steps which we use in 5E model of teaching and learning nowadays in the classroom for creation of new knowledge. Simply we do not follow Herbartian step of introduction, presentation, and evaluation. Those steps are outdated steps. Herbartian steps are outdated steps. At present, we do not use those steps. Then next design or model at present, though it is a difficult model, but it has its importance. We say icon design model, interpretation, construction, design model for teaching and learning in the classroom. Interpretation, construction, design model. It is a very important model, though it involves 8 steps, but it has its importance. I prefer this model, though it is a difficult one on the part of a teacher as compared to 5B model, but I prefer this model. In this model, the first step is teacher has to create situation before the student. Situation as a teacher you have to create before the students. It is also based upon cooperative learning approach. Then situation should be created. Lifelike situation or live situation. Direct situation, or you can create lifelike situation using computer, ICT tools, information and communication technology tools, lifelike situation you can create in the classroom. And next step is let student observe the situation minutely. All students should observe the situation minutely. Observe the situation through their sense organs minutely. And next step is let them give their views, what they observe. As a teacher, you created situation, engaged the student to observe the situation, and let them tell what they observed one by one. Interpretation, construction, what they observed, what they interpreted out of that situation, their views, their opinions, you have to invite. Then contextualization. Contextualization. Next step is contextualization. The situation you have to create must be related to the topic that you are going to transact before the student. It must be based upon that topic, the situation created. Today, you are going to teach transportation system. And based upon that transportation system, you have to create situation and let them observe that situation, and what they observe, let them tell. Then contextualize. Today, we shall teach transportation system in India, how goods are transported from one place to another place in India or in the world. Let us discuss transportation system of goods all over the world. Contextualize topic. Situation should be observation, situation must be contextualized. Then cognitive apprenticeship. Provide the tasks to the students in a group, divide the groups into small collaboration, small groups, and support. Let them discuss with the content, let them discuss with the content among themselves on the content, and you have to provide support. That is called, teacher has to support whenever they require. If they require your support, or if they face any doubt, problem, as a teacher, you have to support. Just to facilitate, you have to support, provide some hints. provide your ideas. It does not mean teaching, just support, cognitive apprenticeship. Then, then multiple interpretations. Student, whenever they work in a small group, discuss among themselves, then some ideas they explore. First group, let us say first group explore some ideas, second group explores some ideas, third group explore some ideas. Exploration of new ideas, different ideas will take place. Then multiple interpretations take place. Exploration of different ideas refers to multiple interpretation of ideas. And whenever multiple interpretation of ideas are discussed among students in whole class, there takes place discussion, debates, arguments, counter arguments. At last, multiple manifestation. At last, manifestation of new ideas take place. This is what icon design model follows. As a teacher, you can either follow 5B model or icon design model at present in the classroom, which could be benefited to each and every student. We can satisfy the needs and expectations of each and every student, who can ensure fullest development of potentialities of the students in the classroom. With these words, let me open this topic for discussion. You can put questions, you can ask about your doubts for clarification. Now the topic is open for discussion. Any question, please ask. Any doubt, you can ask. If you have any doubt, you can ask. No doubt. Hello. Balaram, have you any doubt? Hello, Balaram. No doubt. Kuldeep?
No, sir, no doubt, sir.
No doubt. should I quit? Should we stop? Hello.
Okay, sir, we can stop now because only 4 members are there.
Only 4 members.
I think
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
first day of the
1,
beginning
2,
of
4,
the session, that's why they are very much busy.
Okay,
Navodaya system actually today is the first day, and that's why I think that maximum of the members are busy with the school. That's why. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Let us stop our discussion. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. ସରିଗଲା ଦେଖେ ସେ ଇଏଟାକୁ ବନ୍ଦ କରିବୁ କି କଣ କରିବୁ ଦେଖ ଯୋଉ SCW. ଆସିନି ଝରଣା ଆଉ ମୁଗ ରଗଡି ଦେଲା ମୁଗ ରଗଡିଲା କେତେ କିଲେ କିଲେ ଖଣ୍ଡେ ମୁଗ ରଗଡି ଦେଇଛି ଟୁକୁଲୁ ଫୋନ କରିଥିଲା ସେତେବେଳେ ଟୁକୁଲୁ ଫୋନ କରିଥିଲା ମୁଁ ବନ୍ଦ କରିଦେଇଥିଲି ଟୁକୁଲୁ ଫୋନ କରିଥିଲା କଣ କହିଲା ଗୋଟେ ଖାଇଦେଇଛି ତ ଭଜା ଫଜା ଭଜା ହେଲା ଯେ ସେ ଟିକେ ଭୋକଟା କମି ଯାଇଛି ଖେଳ ଦବ ଯେ ଗୋଟେ କାମ କରିବୁ କାଲି ଦେଲା ବେଳକୁ ସେଇଟାକୁ ମୁଁ ବନ୍ଦ କରିଦେଇଛି ପାଣି ଓଭରଫ୍ଲୋ ହଉଥିଲା ତ ମୁଁ ବନ୍ଦ କରିଦେଇଛି ମୁଁ ପାଣି ପଡ଼ିବାରୁ ବନ୍ଦ କଲି ଉପର ଦେବୁ